His search for his missing daughter leads to a chilling truth: nothing he sees is real, and no one he trusts is safe. Welcome to the mind-bending world of Hypnotic. After spending a few minutes lost in his thoughts, Danny is pulled back to reality by his therapist's voice. She urges him to recall the traumatic event that brought him there, and Danny begins recounting the day he lost his daughter. He had taken Minnie to the park, and while she played, he let his guard down for just a moment. That brief distraction was all it took. Minnie vanished without a trace. Danny became suspicious of a man named Lyle, who had been watching the children that day. Authorities arrested Lyle, but his lawyer argued he was mentally unfit, claiming Lyle couldn't remember what had happened or where Minnie was. Over time, the case grew cold. Danny's marriage fell apart, and his wife left him, but he remained stuck in the past. After the therapy session, he gazes at old photos of Minnie and his pale, blonde-haired wife, Vivian, before meeting his partner, Nix. The two detectives head to a nearby bank after receiving an anonymous tip about a possible robbery. Nix explains that two other branches of the same bank had already been hit, but in each case, only a single safety deposit box was taken, and none contained cash. At the scene, Danny and Nix join a surveillance unit watching from a nearby van. Soon, they spot a man named Delrain, who seems oddly familiar to Danny. Delrain sits next to a woman on a bench, and when he mentions the heat, the woman stands up and walks off, echoing his words. Delrain then chats briefly with the police officers outside the bank, who, without hesitation, let him through the doors. Alarmed, Danny realizes Delrain must be working with accomplices and rushes in after him. Inside, an employee tries to stop Danny, but he swipes the man's keys and pretends he's there to access a deposit box. The employee escorts him to the vault but leaves to search for the missing keys, giving Danny a chance to open the same numbered box that had been stolen at the previous heists. Inside, he finds a photo of Minnie along with a handwritten message: "Find Lev Delrain." Meanwhile, outside the bank, the woman who had been with Delrain continues to wander aimlessly, shedding clothes in the heat. She ignores traffic lights, eventually causing a multi-car pileup that blocks the surrounding roads. At that exact moment, Delrain enters the bank. With a single phrase, he convinces the receptionist to shut down the building. Suddenly, the officers who had been guarding the entrance barge in and begin intimidating the customers. The receptionist retrieves the targeted deposit box. Danny draws his weapon and orders her to stop, but she appears completely unaware of his presence and continues on. The police open fire on Danny, but his bulletproof vest saves him. They escort the receptionist with the deposit box in hand into an armored truck and drive off. As they try to flee, they encounter the blocked road and the dazed woman still rambling about the heat. Attempting to swerve around her, the truck crashes. The receptionist is killed instantly. Delrain arrives moments later, retrieves the box, and slips a bomb into the woman's hand before disappearing. By the time Danny reaches the wreckage, the explosion goes off, destroying the box and all potential evidence. Spotting Delrain in the distance, Danny gives chase. He follows him into a derelict building. A sudden noise startles Danny, but it turns out to be his fellow detectives. The three ascend to the rooftop, where they find Delrain waiting. When Delrain calmly claims to be the wrong man, the two detectives unexpectedly turn their weapons on Danny. Delrain then mentions Lyle, hinting at a deeper connection to Minnie's disappearance. Danny shows him the photo from the deposit box, and at that moment, Delrain realizes the box is now empty just as Nix arrives with backup. Cornered, Delrain cryptically tells the agents to clean up, then leaps off the rooftop to escape. In the chaos, the two detectives shoot each other. Danny looks down to find Delrain gone. Nix reports that only one bank guard survived the incident, but like Lyle, he claims to have no memory of anything. Later that evening, Danny reviews surveillance footage. When Nix calls with a lead, they've traced the anonymous tip to an address. Danny heads to the location and meets Diana, a psychic working with a large, intimidating man who steps outside to wait on his bike. Inside, Danny questions Diana, but she's visibly anxious and refuses to talk. Suddenly, someone confronts the man outside, prompting him to drive his motorcycle straight through the shop in an attempt to kill Diana and Danny. They barely dodge the attack. Realizing he's failed, the man grabs a piece of debris and takes his own life. Now that Diana's safety is at risk, Danny brings her to the police station. There, she finally opens up. She reveals that Delrain is a hypnotic, someone with powerful psychic abilities that allow him to control others' minds. Diana, also a hypnotic, explains they both used to work for a secretive government agency called the Division. Originally intended to train gifted individuals, the agency's true goal was to exploit their abilities for political and military purposes. Danny is skeptical until Diana demonstrates her power by making Nix obey her commands, including crying and walking outside for a smoke, all with a few calm words. She explains that Delrain, once the strongest of them, went rogue. Diana fought against him but ultimately failed, choosing to disappear and live off the grid. When news of the bizarre robberies broke, each marked by total memory loss, she knew Delrain was responsible. Meanwhile, Delrain finds Nix outside and uses his powers to manipulate him. Moments later, Nix storms back into the station, weapon drawn. He doesn't respond to reason, and Danny is forced to shoot him in the leg. Even then, Nix continues to fight, driven by Delrain's lingering influence. Danny eventually handcuffs him to the jail cell, but Nix keeps straining, hurting himself in the process. Before he can break free, Diana intervenes and fatally shoots him in the head. Enraged, Danny confronts her, but Diana insists it was the only way. Nix was doomed either way, and this was a form of mercy. With no plausible explanation for Nix's death, Danny and Diana flee town. Soon after, their faces appear on the news as fugitives. At a quiet diner, Danny confesses to Diana that he finally believes Lyle he really didn't remember anything. It's now clear to him that Delrain is the true culprit behind Minnie's disappearance. Their conversation is interrupted when the local sheriff walks in and immediately recognizes them. Before he can draw his weapon, Diana suddenly uses her powers, making him call the station to report that the fugitives ran off and, for good measure, she compels him to pay for their meal. As Danny and Diana prepare to leave, the sheriff receives a message on his radio. Delrain is coming. The moment they step outside, they spot Delrain flanked by 2 police officers. Danny urges Diana to escape while he creates a diversion, leading the officers on a chase near the train tracks. He uses the moving trains as cover, weaving between them to stay hidden. Suddenly, the world around Danny begins to twist, buildings and streets fold unnaturally. Then it all snaps back to normal. Delrain appears, revealing the distorted landscape was yet another of his mind tricks. As the officers raise their weapons, a truck barrels through the scene and hits them. Behind the wheel is Diana, and together they speed away toward Mexico. On the drive, Diana explains more about how hypnotics work. They can manipulate what others see unless their targets have a psychic block. She suspects Danny has an unusually strong one since her powers don't work on him. Delrain's, however, still seem to affect him. At the Mexican border, a guard tries to stop them, but Diana easily manipulates him into letting them pass. They eventually reach Jeremiah, a former division member. Though he doesn't have powers, he possesses a rare mental block that only Delrain can break. When they knock on his door, a cleaning lady answers. Jeremiah becomes wary and draws a gun just as Danny steps inside. Then the twist, the cleaning lady also draws a weapon at Diana, using an illusion to disguise herself. The real housekeeper is hidden in a closet. Once seated, Jeremiah reveals the truth about Delrain's mission. He's after something called Project Domino, a powerful tool developed by the division that can override anyone's free will, even those with psychic resistance. Delrain once had it but erased his own memory to keep its location secret, leaving behind a trail of hidden clues in case he ever needed to recall it. The division captured him soon after, but something reawakened his memory 6 weeks ago, allowing him to escape. Jeremiah believes one of the clues might have been stored in the stolen safety deposit boxes. When Danny mentions he found a photo of Minnie in one, Jeremiah asks to see it and Diana grows suspicious. In a sudden reveal, Jeremiah is unmasked as Delrain using psychic disguise. He opens fire, and Danny and Diana flee into the streets. Ordinary people, controlled by Delrain, suddenly turn on them. Danny fires into the air to scatter the crowd. They flee down a side street, knocking a biker off his motorcycle and using it to speed through the city. The streets warp and twist again, but Diana reminds Danny it's all an illusion. He pushes forward, causing a nearby truck to crash into a building. Debris rains down, and they abandon the bike, only to find themselves trapped in an alley. Delrain arrives with more officers. He tries to overwhelm Danny's mind, but Danny, remembering Diana's advice about his block, concentrates. In a sudden shift, the officers turn on Delrain and arrest him. Danny is stunned by the display of power. It's clear now he was trained, and his memory has been altered. They retreat to visit River, one of Diana's hacker contacts and the man who built the division's internal network. River digs through files and finds Danny's military and police records but no mention of a wife. Probing deeper, River uncovers that Danny's supposed ex-wife Vivian is actually a division agent. Her location is encrypted and will take time to crack. Later, in a moment of quiet, Danny opens up to Diana. He recalls meeting Vivian in college, falling in love, building a family, and the devastation that followed Minnie's disappearance. He believes Vivian lied about her job, but he felt her grief was real. When Diana showers, Danny receives a phone call from an unknown number. It's Del Reyne. His voice alone is enough to start affecting Danny's mind. Struggling to resist, Danny hangs up, but he's still under the influence. He finds himself holding scissors he didn't remember picking up. Alarmed, he jams them into the wall and walks away. But moments later, he realizes the scissors are somehow still in his hand. He turns toward Diana, unable to fight the mental compulsion. She sees his reflection in the mirror and kisses him to break the spell. The intimate distraction helps Danny snap out of it. The two grow closer, sharing a passionate moment before falling asleep. Danny later wakes from nightmares, visions of his family, of Diana morphing into Vivian. He sneaks into River's room and digs through the files. What he finds shakes him to the core. Diana is listed under the name Vivian. She's been working for the division all along. And the blonde woman in his memories? A fabricated image. Diana was his real wife. Digging further, Danny finds Minnie's file and the shocking truth: Minnie is Domino. She's extraordinarily gifted, the daughter of 2 elite hypnotics. Diana, now awake, confirms everything. She and Danny had once been part of the division. When they discovered Minnie's immense potential, the agency tried to claim her for training. Diana agreed, Danny didn't. In a desperate move, Danny erased his memories and took Minnie into hiding. He now remembers it all. This world isn't real. They're inside an elaborate illusion, crafted by the division to extract Minnie's location. His entire life as a cop, everything from the therapist's office to the bank heist, was staged. Everyone he trusted, Diana, Nix, Vivian, River, even the therapist, were division agents playing roles to manipulate him. Del Reyne is present too, clutching the photo that hides the key to Minnie's whereabouts. They've spent 4 years trying to break Danny's mind. Every time they get close, he resists and forces a reset. Danny breaks free again, escaping into the real division facility. He races through constructed sets meant to mimic his fabricated life. Agents surround him and eventually tase him into unconsciousness. He wakes in a lab. Diana insists her love was genuine. Danny lashes out. With no other option, they plug him into the machine again, resetting his memory until he can only answer, "I don't know." Danny is back in the therapist's office. The illusion starts over with the exact same lines. This time, however, when Danny enters the fake elevator, he checks his phone and sees photos with Diana's real face his block has held. He plays along. Nix takes him to the bank, another elaborate set. While pretending to jot case notes, Danny leaves the surveillance van and vanishes before the agents realize he's gone. He hijacks a division van and crashes through the studio like sets, running over props and agents alike. Diana, trying to stop him, uses speakers to broadcast hypnotic commands, but Danny's block resists them. Nix finds Danny's notebook. Inside, he's cracked the final clue: find Lev Del Reyne is an anagram for Deer Valley Lane, Minnie's true location. Danny arrives at a secluded ranch where Carl and Thelma greet him with guns drawn. Once he proves he remembers, they welcome him inside. There, Minnie, now older, is playing with dominoes. Father and daughter reunite in a heartfelt embrace. Minnie says, "Mom's here." Division helicopters approach. Carl and Thelma are revealed to be Danny's foster parents. When agents land, the couple opens fire. Diana runs to the fallen bodies of Carl and Thelma, sobbing. She doesn't remember them, but they speak to her with familiarity. Danny emerges and tells her the woman he loves wouldn't want this life for their child. Minnie steps forward, hugs her mother, and tells her she's proud this was all part of the plan. Del Reyne, enraged, realizes it's an illusion and opens fire. The fantasy collapses. Minnie uses her powers to make Nix turn on the agents, and Danny controls the remaining ones, forcing them to end it themselves. The illusion breaks completely. They're in a staged location near the hills. Carl and Thelma are alive and finish off any surviving agents. Minnie then links minds with Diana and restores her memories. Diana sees herself strapped to a chair, her mind erased by a red-masked man. She wakes up, stunned. As Del Reyne aims his gun at her, Minnie uses his own powers to force him to end his own life. Finally, Danny explains, as soon as Minnie was born, the division tried to weaponize her. Danny and Diana erased their own memories and sent her to live in hiding with her grandparents. Danny left the photo as a breadcrumb for his future self. He wore the red mask to erase Diana's memories too, ensuring she would eventually help him find Minnie and bring down the division. Reunited, the family embraces, finally free. They board a helicopter with Thelma, while Carl stays behind. But in the final twist, we see Carl's lifeless body on the ground. He was the real Carl. The one flying the helicopter wasn't him, it was Del. Rain in disguise. He's still alive, and he's not done yet.